What You Need, aka also Christ I Am Disciple. And as you can see from the title, we're going to talk about Keith Thurman's win. Um, it was a good fight. Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios was a good fight. Barrios was live all the way to the final belt. That extra weight did him a lot of good. His punch resistance was very good. It was on point. Um, and so Thurman's a very, very hard hitter. And Barrios was ready for that. Barrios took some punishment, but not excessive amount of punishment as everybody was making it out. Yes, Keith Thurman did slice up his face, cut his eye here and here, and busted in the corner. But having said all of that, Barrios did fight his butt off. The commentary was so biased to Keith Thurman that you just never paid attention to the amount of body work that Barrios was doing. His jab was pretty good, and he was catching Keith Thurman repeatedly with overhand rights. And Barrios is a long range guy. He also hurt him in the eighth round and in the ninth round with some left hooks to the liver. His body attack was really good. Barrios was constantly responding and landing some body shots. Keith Thurman had good defense. Never stood really in front of Barrios. Constantly was moving the entire night. That is Keith Thurman's style, an in and out kind of style. And Thurman looked good as well. I mean, he was a bit rusty. He did get hurt a couple times. He did take some left hooks to the head. He did take some right hooks to the head. Barrios sometimes Keith was, I think, a little bit quicker than Barrios. So Keith was able to land some money punches. His left hooks. He landed a couple left hooks, but again, never really got the leverage off the left hooks that he usually gets. So Barris is a longer guy and a taller guy than Keith. So that must be considered. But having said that, I think that Keith Thurman did well for not being in the ring for quite a while, about 2 years and something. Barris did hurt him pretty bad in the eighth round. Now Keith Thurman in post fight was saying he wasn't hurt that bad, but he actually took out his mouthpiece like he did with Manny Pacquiao and took a couple sucks of air. So he was hurt pretty bad. Okay. And Barrios was really raining it down on him in the eighth round. And Barrios probably took that round. That's the same round Keith Thurman busted up Barrios' face in a serious way early on. But having said that, Barrios held his own in that fight. He was doing some good work. Um, but Keith has all these weird angles that he comes in on, leaping left hooks and right hook, left, right combinations and left, right combinations. So he'll do as if he's going to jab you, and then he leaps in with a left combination, and he catches you with the left hook. So Keith's very unorthodox and very awkward. Or should I say, he has different timing, different movement and stuff. You have to keep track of him because he's actually pivoting to the side of you all the time. But Barris kind of held his own. I was able to. Barris doesn't have as quick a feet as Keith does, and Keith was turning Barris all the time. But Barris did pretty well for that challenge. This is two back-to-back big challenges that Barris had. He actually did better in terms of boxing. Gervonta Davis was a much closer fight than against Keith Thurman. Again, Keith Thurman is a different kind of fighter who doesn't really stand in front of you. Um, his good head movement, perpetual foot movement, like the entire night. Keith was just moving laterally. Um, and Keith's foot speed, his rhythm is much faster than Barris's. So I think that was what Barris had to deal with in this case. So with Gervonta Davis, Barris had to deal with circling with certain angles. He seemed to have gotten that sort of figured out. Uh, Davis is very quick, lightning fast, and Barris had to deal with the quickness, but in this case, with Keith, it was the lateral foot movement that Barris had to keep track of, and he did a pretty good job of doing that. But Keith was still too much for Barris. Every single round was competitive. Barris was in the fight. He was a very competitive fighter. He was landing shots on Keith. I don't know what punch stats all these people were seeing, but he was landing shots on Keith, and that's why Keith kept on staying on the outside. Keith would have just walked through him and beat him up even worse. But the thing about it was that Keith was landing the cleaner, more uh, fan pleasing shots. He was landing more head shots. Barris was landing more body shots. So he would counter Keith to the body more. Even when Keeter landed sometimes those big left hooks, Barris had actually landed a body shot right after that. And that's what kept Keith on the outside. Keith wasn't trying to close the distance. Embarrassing. I remember he landed a really nice shot to the spleen, a good spleen shot on Keith, kind of down the center. Keith kind of moved into the shot as he was throwing that left hook. So Barris was timing Keith and trying to land on Keith as he was coming on the inside. And Keith would keep his defense up. And so, credit to Keith, though. But he did take some punishment, and you can see it on his face. He had some bruisings on his face. And Barris caught him with some really nice, crisp left hooks as well. But he kept himself elusive. He kept moving all the time against the taller guy, and he would go in and out. And so Keith won that fight. Credit to Keith. Congratulations to Keith Thurman on winning the fight. He definitely did win the fight. Um, and congrats to Barrios on doing the full 12 against another top tier opponent. So there's two top tier opponents that Barrios had. Barrios is tough. He's strong. He's fundamentally sound. He's improving as a fighter. He's not, you know, as God gifted as say Keith Thurman. You know, he does have sufficient power. I think he has very good power because when he landed that left hook to the body, Keith felt that. It was really good timing, good power. Um, and he followed up with a couple other shots. He caught Keith with an overhand right, snapped him back. He had a couple of jabs that were really good. So Barris did his thing. But as my prediction said, Keith Thurman by unanimous decision. That's exactly what happened. Uh, Keith won by unanimous decision. And did not stop Mario Barrios as I expected. And Mario Barrios also did something that I expected. He attacked Keith's body, and he went to the body, and he actually got some dividends. I mean, in the eighth round, he really was hunting down Keith. Keith was on the move, and cornered Keith and was trying to tee off on him. And in the ninth round, again, he hurt Keith to the body. And throughout the fight, he was landing punches that he wasn't getting credit for, which was kind of sad because the commentary was very, very biased. Keith did win the fight, but it was a lot more competitive than they made it out to be. I'd say Keith won it like about 8 rounds to 4. I think Barrios took at least 4 rounds, including that big eighth round. But because people were not really paying attention, pretty much the 11th round was Barrios' round. Um, I think that he also won one of the earlier rounds. I can't remember exactly which one. And I do believe he also won the ninth. So that's about 4 rounds Barrios took. It was a respectable fight. It was reasonably competitive, but Keith more than likely won most of the rounds, in my opinion. Um, so where does that leave these boxers who have fought and won rounds? Well, Carissa Shields, she had a dominant performance. Chris Eubank had a dominant performance. And Keith Thurman had a dominant performance. So all of those fights were just springboards to showcase the fighter somewhat. The challenges were pretty stiff. With Carissa, it was an undefeated fighter, southpaw, more of an infighter though. With Chris Eubank, it was a tough guy who talked up a lot of chatter. At first, Demetrius Andrade, people thought he kind of later down the stretch gave Demetrius Andrade a much more tougher fight. I don't think so, but that's what they think. And Uh, on top of that, I also thought that Keith Thurman handled himself pretty well for 2.5 years out the ring. Barrios also conducted himself very well. Got his get back. Got that lovely body shot in the 8th round. Another one in the ninth, I believe. And so everybody, even Barrios, kind of conducted himself pretty well. Rat Eye says, right. So Rat Eye says, Thurman fought well. I stand corrected. Okay. He says, Thurman fought well. I stand corrected. My phone is kind of stupid. So I keep on things and I get the wrong button. Hold on. Add moderator. Hide user on this channel. Put user in time. I don't know what the hell just happened. But show me this goddamn thing. Stupid. Yes. I tipped Barrios but got it wrong. I had it 10-2 Thurman. Barrios only won 2 rounds in my opinion. I thought he won 4. Um, the commentary can always persuade somebody that a fighter is doing more than they really are doing. And I think they didn't give Barrios the credit that he deserved. I think he performed pretty well. Keith was landing Barrios with some beautiful headshots. He wasn't doing much body work. And Barrios was landing more of the body work. And even when Barrios gets caught with a headshot, he's actually landing, he's riding the shot because he's coming back with a body shot. So you'd find that Barrios would come. So Keith Thurman, for example, would throw a left hook, right? And Barrios would get caught with the left hook, but he's riding the shot because he's coming with his own hook to the body, Keith's body. And nobody's paying attention to that. But it is what it is. Rat Eye says, Shields fought a great fight. Her lack of power is the problem. She beats Marshall, though. I don't think she lacks power. I think Clarissa Shields has a lot of power. I was explaining it the other night through, but I'm glad you came through, Rat Eye. Shout out to Rat Eye, by the way, for chatting with me. I don't think that Clarissa Shields lacks power. Here's what I think happened, Rat Eye. I think it's that she forces her shot sometimes. She so wants to get the girl out there that she smothers herself by leaping in and closing the distance a little too much. So she smothers up the shot, and she's not naturally throwing her punches. You know what I mean? Uh, she uh, she just need to relax more and not worry about the knockout, and the knockout will come. I remember she hit a girl with a body shot and stopped her. And I remember her hitting a girl with a headshot too and stopping her too. But Clarissa is so want to overpower the person that her timing gets knocked off. Remember, to knock out somebody is not just about hitting hard. You can hit hard like a sledge truck, and you have a guy still stand up watching you as you sledge trucking this dude. It's an art, and it's about timing. And you can't get the sweet timing, hit the guy in the sweet spot where they don't expect it. If you know you if you not relax, and there's a certain lag time in the shot you have to have, where like if you're throwing a hook, for example, there's a certain lag time, and she's very sharp, she's very quick, but the problem with that is it tenses up her opponent, so her opponent will tense up a bit, and they always watching for them shots. They're always aware. You want them to kind of be semi-relaxed so you can knock them to spark out. Like even you watch a Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder usually knock out an opponent in a counter shot because he's a counter puncher. He catch you coming in with a shot you didn't even see. You know what I'm saying? But if you defensive and you totally defensive and you're under defensive all the time, I can beat down on you and you're gonna block a lot of shots. You're gonna stiffen up for a lot of shots and catch them or roll them or just brace for them. And so you don't get knocked out. Take for example, Keith Thurman didn't knock out Mario Barrios, right? And Keith Thurman's supposedly a knockout artist. He ain't got a knockout in a long time. The reason being, it's not that Keith Thurman don't have power. You saw what he did Mario Barrios' face, how he busted up his face. He got power. But Mario Barrios was ready for the task, and he was riding, rolling, and also he was tensing up, and he was blocking certain shots. So you could tee off on an opponent, but you got a knockout artist, he lull you to sleep sort of like. He kind of gets you in a false sense of confidence that you doing something. and then he would just catch you with a shot, and that's it. All she wrote. You could have incredible power. You could have hands that is bricks. I think of two fighters who got brick hands. Um, one was in the Mayweather boxing gym. Actually, two of them. One was knocking everybody out left, right, and center. All of a sudden, he ain't knocking out nobody no more. And then the other guy, the European dude, I think he fought David Benavidez. Ronald Gavril. Ronald Gavril got heavy, heavy hands. Everybody know that. He got heavy, heavy hands. But Ronald Gavril, he just can't. He can't get the knockouts. He's sparring you. He will knock you down. He will knock you out. But once he's in that square circle, he get a certain tension in him, a certain nervousness in him, and he just don't knock nobody out. Another guy who used to knock everybody out cold. Again, Mayweather boxing gym. He's a lightweight. I forgot what his name is. They used to call him. I think they call him Texas or something like that. It was nicknamed Texas. Dude knock out everybody in sparring. But once he get into that square circle, he's not knocking anybody out. Hank Lundy. Hank Lundy's a bad motherfucker, you know. But Hank Lundy don't. His knockout percent, and he got heavy hands, and he got good hands. He's good speed and everything. But Hank Lundy don't knock out everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so there's levels to boxing, and people need to understand that. Clarissa Shields, she's fighting high tier, high level guys over and over and over again. Girls, you know what I'm saying? She fighting high tier, high level women. You know what I'm saying? Undefeated fighters, and fighters who are world champions and stuff. And so at that high level, it's gonna be even harder to knock those guys out, cause them guys, they've been through it. They got confidence. They got all kinds of things working for them, where it's not easy to just stop those guys. You know what I'm saying? But and then Savannah Marshall, she's getting on KOs. Yeah, she knocking out people. But who are the people she's knocking out? This is some of the things that I like to explain to people, because people talk about, oh, this guy's knockout out. Oh yeah, this guy he's incredible and what. Yeah, but who is he knocking out though? You know, even some of the legendary fighters. We all talk about him. Oh yeah, this legendary fighter. He was a legendary fighter. He was just knocking out people left, right, and center. Okay, but who were the people he was knocking out? Were they top tier guys, repeatedly knocking them out? Was he knocking out repeatedly top tier guys, or was it guys that was knocked out before? One, two, guys who were not the top just tiers guys. They're not even okay fighters. They below average. So you can make a fighter look like a beast. I hate to draw people's attention to Triple G, but Triple G is a fighter. I ain't gonna say too much negative about him, but you saw when he stepped up in a certain level of competition, he wasn't stopping nobody. He wasn't stopping nobody, right? Once he faced Danny Jacobs, right? That was it. The only guy he knocked out was Steve Rolls. Steve Rolls, who's supposed to face, I heard his name mentioned for some fighter. I can't remember who it is at middleweight, but I can't remember who it is right now. But Steve Rolls, I mean, undefeated fighter, yeah, but he ain't got that level of experience. We don't even know what his chin's like. You know what I'm saying? So there's levels to boxing. So Savannah Marshall, she may look like this big KO artist, and maybe she has some good pop, but at the end of the day, who has Savannah Marshall faced on the level of anybody that Clarissa Shields has faced in Clarissa Shields' entire career? That's what you got to ask yourself, because there's always levels to it. Rod I One says, I don't listen to the commentary, mate, especially when it's U.S. commentary. I like to make my own judgments. That's good, man. That's good. Rod I One says, yeah, she does close the distance. I agree. She needs to take a step back, create some space. Her timeout for left hand is beautiful. Yeah, Carissa, she gonna get a knockout. Don't worry, she gonna get a knockout, but she gotta stop thinking about that. She can't press for no knockout. Forget about that. Just win the fight, win round by round, do your thing. She hits hard. Ask any one of them girls out there. She hits hard. I don't think she not no feather fisted nothing. She got speed too. She's sharp and hard, but she just don't have that timing down. You know. And when a fighter's wincing and they're bracing for you, you gotta feint it and then throw it. So she's fast too. She's really fast. So I don't think she lacks power. And Floyd Mayweather, everybody likes to talk about Floyd's feather fisted. I don't think Floyd's feather fisted either. I know Floyd got power. He got power because Floyd don't hit you with more than one shot at a time. How he gonna hit you with one shot at every time, and you gonna hesitate to come in? Why are you hesitating? Right? Of course, he varies the power in the shot with different shots and all of that stuff. It's very nuanced. And we could talk about another fighter that people say is feather fisted, and I know for a fact they ain't feather fisted. Somebody who didn't really got that kind of pop? Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley used to go hard. Um, but actually, I take that back. Timothy Bradley had pop. Timothy Bradley has pop. Timothy Bradley hurt Manny Pacquiao in their second fight. In their second fight, I remember Timothy Bradley catching Manny Pacquiao leaping in, and he caught him with a shot, and Manny Pacquiao got the skanky leg. I remember that now that I think about it. Yeah, Timothy Bradley got pop. It's just, again, a lot of times it's not that the fighter. You know who else? You know who is now a knockout artist, but at the time they weren't? Jamel Charlo. Jamel Charlo, who's at junior middleweight or super welterweight, right? There was a certain time he couldn't get knockouts. Then he went across to Errol Spence's trainer, Derek James, and Derek James was able to teach him the mechanics and get him the proper, just the mechanics needed to be changed. Nothing else. And he got him the proper mechanics to get the knockout. And he been knocking people out since. You know what I'm saying? Um, Right Eye One says, "How do you think Eubank gets on with Andre, Golovkin, Munguia? Also, can you see Jesse Rodriguez staying at Superfly or going back down?" Okay, so first, I'm gonna talk about what I know, and then I'm gonna leave you to tell me a little bit more about Jesse Rodriguez because I don't know who that is. Um, Chris Eubank Jr. How does he get on with Demetrius Andrade? Ooh, okay, no. Now Demetrius Andrade is a different kind of cat, but Eubank Jr. is coming along really well. I see flashes of Roy in him. I see what the old Chris Eubank every now and then he rumble on the inside. Um, I love the kind of fighting that he has now. I mean, that was his best performance in my opinion that I seen against Liam Williams. But then that's Liam Williams. That ain't no Demetrius Andrade. Okay. um, I think he does well against Triple G. I think he does well against Triple G. I think he does well against Munguia. Uh, but I don't want to underestimate Munguia. Munguia's been improving tremendously, and Munguia is showing me all kinds of things. So I got to pay attention to Munguia. Munguia's out of the two, all three of them guys is tough fights. Period. Okay. Now I know Chris Eubank Jr. He's a tough guy, and he wouldn't be fighting them like how he fought Liam Williams. But he's getting polished, man. Roy is polishing him. Now he has to be able to mix some of what Chris Eubank Jr. does on the inside because that's outboxing he did. Basically, he outboxed Liam Williams. He stayed on the outside and he boxed him from the outside mostly, right? Um, and he was doing some beautiful things like his counter uppercut. He didn't get the timing down pat, but he realized that Liam Williams was kind of committing to coming in and he was leading in and he was reaching. So as he reached, he would throw he would throw that beautiful uppercut up the center. He would miss or fall short, but it was still something. I would see what he was doing, and that's a Roy Jones Jr. move. But it was beautiful. You know how he kind of mask it, and his face is one place, but his hand is doing something else. It's just some deft movements. I loved the little quick steps that he would make, how he would change up his rhythm, how he would keep that distance. It was beautiful. Even the feinting of the jab, where he would feint that jab. I'm a southpaw, so where he would do as if he's throwing the jab and then swivel it a little bit as he's pivoting out the way. It's just beautiful, man. Um, so I think he's getting there, but he not. I don't think he's on the level of an Andre Golovkin and Munguia as yet. Okay, even Munguia been growing as a fighter as well. So I think there's much to learn with all of those guys. But hey, match him up. Now Andre's no longer at middleweight, so we probably should take Andre out of the equation. So what you're really left with is Golovkin and Munguia. I think he's going to be. I think actually Eubank's going to be fighting for the WBO title very soon. Against who? I don't know. Red Eye says Jesse Bam Rodriguez fought on the DAZN card last night. He won the WBC belt versus Carlos Cuadras. Oh yeah, there was that fight that was supposed to go down. I saw it on you know where I saw that? I saw that in one of those boxing groups. They was advertising that. Yeah. Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Carlos Cuadras. I don't know too much about Jesse Rodriguez because I never watched him. I know Carlos Cuadras. You know, he the perpetual punching machine. He got decent boxing skills, but he loved to scrap too. So, oh, he beat Carlos Cuadras. Well, that's interesting. Um, so that's basically what I got. I'm gonna have to look into that in more detail. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about what you think about Jesse Rodriguez's chances at super? Was it superfly or was it flyweight? What weight class was it? Carlos Cuadras is a superfly, isn't he? I think he's a superfly or junior bantam. So Jesse Bam Rodriguez versus Carlos Quadras should be interesting. Unless Carlos Quadras went down in weight and went back down to fly. Uh, yeah, man. Hey, it was good talking boxing with you guys. It's 26 minutes and 41 seconds in. This was just a quick stream to update people on Keith Thurman versus. Don't forget to smash the like button, people. Show me some love by smashing at least smash the like button if you enjoyed this little chat inside the house. As you can see, informally, I'm right here inside my home, just chilling and doing the video. Hey, by the way, I feel much better this morning. I'm feeling way better than I was feeling before, and thank God for that. So I'm recovering from the virus. Even though my face and eyes, I actually got a good night's sleep last night, so that's great. Bam is actually a light flyweight. This fight was at Superfly. He moved up to fight Carlos. Okay, cool. Cool. Tell me a little bit more about him, man. I don't know nothing about the dude at all. Um, Shout out to my boy Red Eye. Don't you have a channel or something? Also that I can just let the people know about it. Red Eye, man. If y'all don't know about Red Eye, I think they have a boxing group and everything, and they're real cool, man. They're real cool. I should come on your program at some point in time and talk a little boxing with you guys, man. But basically, uh, that's all I got for Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios. But if you want to enlighten us a little bit more about Bam Rodriguez, bro, and what's his fighting style? What do you think his fighting style is? Tell us. Is he an in-fighter? Does he box on the outside? Does he mix it up? Can he fight on the inside and on the outside? That's what I mean by it. Does he mix it up? And is he a southpaw? Is he orthodox? You know, all those kinds of things. Just let us know a little bit about him from what you saw with him against Carlos Cuadras. We know Carlos Cuadras is a high energy sort of fighter. He can box. He's mostly a boxer, but he likes to trap every now and then. He's a very skilled fighter. Great movement. Yeah, my channel is Between the Ropes TV, so you guys should check it out. Between the Ropes TV. I would say that. And his Facebook group is Boxing Fans. Am I in your Facebook group, by the way? I don't even know if I'm in your Facebook group. I should really check to see. You say he's a very skilled fighter. What does that mean? You know, when you say a very skilled fighter, great movement. So, I think I know who that is now. I think I know who that is. They interviewed him. The Boxing Voice interviewed him, didn't they? He was supposed to prep for. No, was it? Was it him? Did Carlos Cuadras come in on short notice? Maybe I'm mixing them up. I think I saw that interview. I think I know who it is now. I never saw him fight, but I think I know who it is. I think. I think College Quarters was on a short notice or not. I don't. And it's kind of pretty interesting that he moved up in weight. So he's a boxer. He boxed on the outside mostly. Southpaw. Okay, he is a southpaw. Okay, he does mix it up, but he's more of a boxer, but terrific on the inside. Okay, so he places his shots well on the inside. He's Mexican. I'm guessing he's a Mexican fighter. Yes, you are in the group. Okay, I am in the group. Okay, man. I got some I got some interesting information to give you guys in that group. You know, there's so much stuff I want to share with you guys on boxing that I know a lot of people don't even share. I know it. I just know it for a fact. People be just on some trivial stuff, and I want to share some stuff on boxing, not necessarily on current fighters from every single kind of era, man. Man, you know, I'm gonna quote Roger Mayweather. You know, they're great boxers. There are a lot of great boxers. Like there are a lot of great boxers. There really are. And I got so much. Let me throw one at you. Boxing scientists. Thurman fight wasn't pay-per-view worthy. Hold on a second, guys. I'm gonna come right back to you. Hold on one second. Just stay there. I'm be right back with you in a second. In a flash. Hold on a second. I'm gonna come back to you. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. So, uh, Keith Thurman, man. You say it wasn't pay-per-view worthy. No, it wasn't. I saw a series of things out there talking about that. That PBC seems to be losing money. So the COVID really hit them hard, and so as a result of that, I think that what you're seeing is these pay-per-view fights. So the fighters are getting paid off of the pay-per-view monies that come through, and pay-per-view not doing that great. Both fighters were coming off losses. To headline a pay-per-view fight was a robbery. I mean, it ain't a robbery if you ain't paying for it. So if you pay for it, well, it is what it is. So I think they kept that model so that the guarantees that they would guarantee usually a fighter the same, man, see if you can make it back in pay-per-view. You want to get a cut of pay-per-view for that instead. So that's how they're doing it. Um, yeah, there's some things I want to put out in that group, in different groups. You know, there's some interesting stuff. I'm also in the group. I think it's history of boxing and pugilism or something like that. That's a dope group, and we've been putting out I've been putting out a lot of other boxers and fighters, over the course of the history of boxing. I think, you know, people don't talk about at all. And I have a series on here as well, boxing's not talked much about, which, I was doing, I think I reached my part 32 or 33, something like that, and I stopped. But I'm trying to revive it. What You Need channel was doing a lot of things, but then I moved from my laptop to the phone, and certain, even the studio work that I do, for those of you who know me as Christ I Am Disciple, it kind of went down the quality of recordings and stuff because I'm really doing everything from my phone now. I'm not doing anything from my Right Eye One says I'm in that boxing history pugilism group too. Yeah, yeah. So you can look out for some of my posts. A lot of people are really getting some respect for it because some of the posts that I put in is boxes that people not talking about much about. And I could tell you, there's a lot of factoids that are very interesting about some fighters, man. That that's just dope. And people, you wonder to yourself, why aren't these fighters talked about today? Well, because politics and who people liked and that kind of stuff. But there's some boxers that accomplish incredible things, man. And we'll talk about them. Don't worry. Like, okay, I'm gonna give you an example of one, right? So in the history of boxing, you have to understand before the era of sanctioning bodies, there was the era where we had, well, there was still sort of like sanctioning bodies, but there was the era of just between bare knuckle brawl era, which was just before the 1900s, right? Before the 1900s was bare knuckle brawl either. So the bare knuckle brawl era goes all the way back to the 1600s. So like 300 years of bare knuckle brawl. And but before that, I'm sorry. So after that was the glove era, right? Um, the glove era started late 1800s into our time now. And during that period of time, there was, what we call the champion. Okay, it wasn't undisputed or anything like that because it was just they had one belt. Okay, that was kind of like the one belt era. But that era ended rather rapidly by 1921. So 1920, we had a sanctioning body putting out a sanctioning belt. It was known as the New York State Athletic Commission. Took over. Before that, there was another organization called the IBU, the International Boxing Union. But that was before that. But we really started dealing with sanctioning bodies and really started dealing with official stuff in the year 1920. This is when the New York Athletic Commission, they formed uh, a boxing commission, and the New York State Athletic Commission formed a belt, and it was known as the NYSAC. And in 1921, a rival organization known as the National Boxing Association, the NBA, they uh, formed another belt because they said they don't want this one organization to dominate everything. And so you had in 1921, if you had the NYSAC and you had the NBA belt together, you were considered undisputed. And that's where undisputed began. Okay, so the there's four different eras of undisputed. The first era is with the original sanctioning bodies, which was the NYSAC and NBA. That era that went from 1921 all the way up to 1963, 1962. That era was known. That's what they call the black and white era. You're going through you're going through the later 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 50s, 60s, right? But after that era, the NBA became the WBA. It's the same organization, but they didn't just appeal to America, and this belt was just applied. Because boxing was so open to the world, they called it the World Boxing Association. So they just changed their name. It's the same governing body from 1921. Around 1922, the Ring magazine came into existence. I believe it's 1922. So we had the Ring magazine belt also that dealt with the lineage of boxers, the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy. And then and they went retroactively backwards. And then you had and that was a very prestigious belt. And then you, of course, the NYSAC, the New York State Athletic Commission, they gave an okay to this new sanctioning body known as the WBC, which is the World Boxing Council, which is stationed in Mexico. But interestingly enough, when it started to come into being and everything, and the NYSAC sort of backed off and said, all right, you can take over boxing, and the WBC came into being, we had this continuation. So the two oldest boxing bodies and parents of several other boxing bodies is the WBA, or also known as the NBA, and the WBC, which it's not as old. It actually is younger, but it's like a continuation of the NYSAC. So I always say, well, it's like the NYSAC, so you can think of it as a continuation. Those are the two belts. Those now, so you had the early two belt era, which had to do with the NBA and NYSAC, okay, of Undisputed, and then the second half of Undisputed, the second era, you had what is the two belt era, where you're dealing with the WBA and the WBC. And that era lasted up till I believe it is 1983. In 1983, the IBF, which is actually an offshoot of the WBA, some of the people who used to be in the WBA, they didn't like how the WBA was carrying about itself, so they formed this organization, which is known as the International Boxing Federation, or the IBF, which has specific rules, which to this day, if you look at the IBF, they're very consistent with their rules and mandatories and all that stuff. So the IBF, anyway, budded off of the WBA. In 1983, the IBF was incorporated, I believe, not 1983. I think in 1980, I believe it's somewhere around 1985 or 6 or 7. The IBF was incorporated into Undisputed. But remember, it's a branch of the WBA. So anyway, people started accepting the IBF, and so somewhere in 1983 or somewhere thereabouts, uh, you ended up you would be considered undisputed when you had those three belts, and that's called the three belt era. And in 2007, the WBO joined that, and so it was an agreement by all the sanctioning bodies that the WBO, in addition to the IBF and the WBA, um, uh, is now considered for someone to be undisputed. You had to have four belts. So it actually got harder and harder to become undisputed because you got to collect so much more belts, right? Um, and that's the case with the four belt era. Now, here's the important point that a lot of people miss. People talk about, for example, uh, you becoming undisputed being this big thing, and it is a big thing. But I always explain to people, back in the day, when people talk about, there are more belts or whatever, but back in the day, here's the problem. Generally, an undisputed champion, the belts weren't split up. So one guy could have these two belts, plus the Ring Magazine belt. And the Ring Magazine belt indicated that, you were the champion, right? But as time went along and politics went along, I think it was somewhere in the 80s, it was harder to have the two belts at once. somebody always had one belt and somebody always had the other belt. So with the WBA, WBC sort of thing, we saw as time went along and it got a little later in the game, you even see Muhammad Ali, he didn't have both belts. When he got it third time, he got, I think it was the WBA, a version of the undisputed thing. So he never had both belts at that time, that Leon Spinks thing. Um, with you look at successive years, Sugar Ray Leonard, he got the WBC belt, but Thomas Hearns had the WBA. So Leonard eventually became undisputed. Did he ever defend undisputed? I don't even know. So anyway, he became undisputed. Leonard was able to bring the two belts together when he unified with Thomas Hearns, so he was undisputed. But it became more and more difficult to become undisputed because of politics. So you would have one guy who have a belt. Roberto Duran had I believe he had the WBA belt, and I think Esteban de Jesus had the WBC, and he finally got undisputed. But once these guys got undisputed, and this is very important for people to understand, a lot of times the fighter would actually leave the division or he would retire or something, and he never defend his title. So there's a lot of undisputed champions, and you take bear record of this. A lot of undisputed champions who never defended their title even once. Okay, and that's something that I thought was very interesting to share with you guys when I was starting to look at the history of the thing. And because it's getting harder and harder to become undisputed, because you then after that period of time we had the three belt era, and it was just less undisputed champions. We had Bernard Hopkins, maybe Zab Judah at welterweight. We had Lennox Lewis. Um, who, who else was undisputed? It was just less. It's just less and less people. And now you see that since then it's been very difficult. And then in the four belt era, we've only had 6 undisputed champions in the four belt era. 6 since 2007. So when you put all of that into perspective, you really realize, and we're in 2022 right now. You understand how difficult it is to become undisputed. And not only that, then to say you're going to defend as an undisputed champion, okay, that's even much more difficult now than ever. Um, but I wanted to raise that point to point out something, because when you look at, say, for example, the WBA NYSEC era, who was the person who had the most undisputed championship wins? And you'll be surprised at the names that come up and then the stories that come behind that. Because when you look at the history of the guys, hey, if you guys are watching what I'm doing and you liking what I'm doing, please do me a simple courtesy and smash the like button. Just do me that simple courtesy. It's nice for you to watch whatever you're seeing. It'd be nice also if you just smash it, because obviously you're watching it because you like what you're seeing. So, um, give me the simple courtesy and smash the like button. The more likes I get on my channel is better for me as a person who is doing actually content on YouTube. So if you would be so kind as to smash the like button, that would be appreciated by me. As I was saying, so what I was saying is that it is a little bit more difficult to become undisputed today. But in addition to that, it's interesting the different eras. When you look at the different eras of undisputed, and you see, for example, as I said before, the two belt era where you have the NYSEC and the NBA, it's very interesting to see that this person was undisputed, but who was the person that actually had the most undisputed wins, consecutive undisputed wins? And you will be surprised at who those people are. Um, and I would always advise people to go look into the history of those fighters. Let me give you an example of one that I think I shared in one of the groups. That I don't know if anybody actually looked at the post, because I haven't actually had time to go back since yesterday and see, who responded to the post. But I'll give you a series of names, and then you guys can respond to me if you so wish. Again, can you please smash the like button? If you're watching my stuff and you're watching my content, at least do me the common courtesy of smashing the like button. Why do I have to ask you guys for this? If you're watching my content, obviously you must like what it is you're seeing. So smash it. And do me a favor, because it helps my algorithm on YouTube, and it helps them to know and pick me up so that I can do some things with that. Okay, but if you don't smash the like button and you're taking the content that I have from me, then you're doing me a disservice. All right, I can give you guys a lot of content that is really useful for you to know and to learn about boxing. That's why I'm called What You Need. But in return, all you got to do is smash the like button. Not asking you, I mean, you can donate to my channel if you so wish, but at the end of the day, I'm asking you to smash the like button. That's all I'm asking you to do. So do it. Alright, so back to what I was saying. So what you find is that there's a lot of interesting people on there. Yeah. Rather, I know you smashed the like button. Thank you so very much, by the way. I appreciate that. Um, there's okay, so I'm gonna ask y'all a simple question, and you go do your homework, right? In the very first era of undisputed in boxing, okay, very first era undisputed in boxing. I'm gonna throw out some names. I did this in the group. I'm throwing out the names now, but let me just say that uh, I did not throw out names. I just showed pictures. So if you didn't know who the, the fighters were, then you had to do your homework. Okay, I only threw out pictures, but anyway, I'm gonna tell you the names of the people. So in the very first era of undisputed, okay, that's the NYSAC NBA era of undisputed. Who was the middleweight? Listen to me carefully now. Who was the middleweight who had the most consecutive undisputed wins? Or shall I say, most consecutive undisputed successful defenses of their middleweight title. And I'm going to actually give you some names, and you're going to have to tell me who that was, okay? Bear in mind what I said. I'm going to repeat myself before I go through the names, right? So, in the first era of undisputed, this is the two-belt era with the NYSAC and the NBA, okay? Pay attention to what I'm saying. Content is very important. In that era, who was the middleweight champion, undisputed champion, who had the most successful undisputed defenses of their title? All right, and here's the names. Okay, we got Sugar Ray Robinson. We got Freddie Steele. We got Carlos Monzon, and we got Marvin Hagler. Okay, 4 names. I'm gonna repeat it again. In the first era of undisputed, okay, the first era of undisputed, as the NYSEC and the NBA era, when you have those belts, who was the undisputed middleweight champion who had the most successful consecutive undisputed middleweight championship defenses in boxing? Is it Sugar Ray Robinson, Freddie Steele, Carlos Monzon, or Marvin Hagler? I asked that question in one of the groups. I'm interested to see what you guys would say. Uh, the four names again is Sugar Ray Robinson, Freddie Steele, Carlos Monzon, and Marvin Hagler. And you guys could try and answer that question if you so wish. But I like to throw out things like that because I believe that things like that actually help people to learn more about the sport of boxing. Okay? And the answer obviously is Freddie Steele. For those of you who don't know, Freddie Steele was a very successful middleweight champion. Uh, I believe it's in the 1950s. No, sorry, my bad. In the 1930s. I think he won in 1936 or somewhere thereabouts, in the 1930s. So I think he was a champion from 1936 to 1938. Okay, he had 5 successful defenses of his undisputed championship. Why it's not Sugar Ray Robinson? Sugar Ray Robinson actually had 4 successful defenses of his uh, undisputed championship. Whereas, no, sorry, my bad. No, Sugar Ray Robinson had, I think he had one. I think it was one because he would win the title, defend, and then lose the title. Okay, so he didn't even have. Sorry, my bad. I'm mixing him up with welterweight. Carlos Monzon, he has the most successful defenses of his undisputed championship, but he was in the WBC WBA era. And Marvin Hagler, he had, I believe, it's 5 successful defenses of his championship, undisputed that is. But again, he was in the WBC WBA era, and so he does not count. So you have to kind of know that. Now, what I suggest to you guys is you go and you do your homework on Freddie Steele. The guy's name is Freddie Steele. Some fantastic stuff you'll find out. And I hope that you do, because that's somebody that history seems to overlook. And it's sad because nobody knows the name Freddie Steele. You have to really be a super duper hardcore, you know, boxing fan to know who Freddie Steele is. You know, and you've been doing a lot of research and homework. Good fighter, very good fighter. So, you know, that's the beauty of boxing, and that's the beauty of the sport, and getting to know the history of the sport and the history of boxers in the sport, for example. And so I like to share these little nuggets with you guys, because again, you know, it's not about ego and being some boxing guru or something. I don't believe in that stupidness. I think it's just about your love for the sport and enjoying the sport and enjoying and understanding what you're seeing as a fight fan. You know, and not saying crazy whack stuff, because I see a lot of fight fans and they say a lot of it's some whack stuff, man, and it should be, you know, you'd be like, what? And you know, I don't want to get involved in that aspect of boxing anymore. I'm I'm gonna stay looking towards enjoying the sport and enjoying what the sport brings to the table, and talking about the good stuff about the sport, particularly. So that's what I got for you guys. I'm what you need. I'm gonna catch you guys later. I'm also Christ I am disciple, because my other channel for some reason has a copyright strike or something against it. So it is what it is. But you guys will be seeing me soon. So I'm gonna catch you guys later. What you need. Out.